Wow. Can I take a moment before I lead you in a reflection to talk about how special it is that this is a place where each of you felt you could stand up and say where you're at today? Where even though we're having experiences that are really different from one another's, Howard, Marty, and Han don't live in the same specific world, and if we didn't all come to church, chances are those are three humans who would never be in a place talking about their feelings at the same time. What a thing. What possibility in that sort of intergenerational solidarity building, where no matter when and where you grew up or what your experience right now is, you can hear the same pain in the voice of another. I want to take a moment just to think about how special that is. It has been a hard time in which to be a person. It's not precisely new, but it has been a hard time. Take some deep breaths. Go ahead and let yourself be comfortable. Breathe and enter into a space that some call prayer and others meditation. Breathe and reflect on this, ahem to matter, a Tilhard de Chardin. Blessed be you, harsh matter, barren soil, stubborn rock, you who yield only to violence, you who force us to work if we would eat. Blessed be you, perilous matter, violent sea, untamable passion, you who, unless we fetter you, will devour us. Blessed be you, mighty matter, irresistible march of evolution, reality, ever newborn. You who, by constantly shattering our mental categories, force us to go even further and further in our pursuit of the truth. Blessed be you, universal matter, unmeasurable time, boundless ether, triple abyss of stars and atoms and generations. You who, by overflowing and dissolving our narrow standards of measurement, reveal to us the dimensions of God. Please remain seated and join in our centering hymn, number 123, in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life. I have woken up angry more mornings than I care to recall. Recently, yes, but not just recently. James Baldwin said that to be Black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. Though I do not wish to dilute his point, I tend to believe that being any type of marginalized and conscious, maybe even any meaningful kind of conscious at all, is rage-producing. And so little of it is new. I likely do not need to recount for you the litany of anger-inducing realities about our present world. You read the news. But I will express my own fury at a world where, no matter what I intend to speak to you about on Sunday morning, every week requires that we process another tragedy or four. I am angry that another 2 people are dead at the hands of a far-right extremist and self-proclaimed misogynist. I am livid that US law enforcement is claiming that they did not know about the rise in the prevalence of right-wing violence in recent years. I am livid particularly when I recall that they had time to create the category Black identity extremists, that they had time to heavily investigate loosely organized networks of anti-fascists, that they had time to attempt to prosecute street medics, people who go to protests and keep people from dying. Time to prosecute a friend of mine who, when Nazis showed up in Sacramento, went there, and when someone got stabbed, healed their sucking chest wound while they waited for the EMTs to come. I am livid about the claim that they didn't know. And I am livid about the amount of credence being given to that statement by outlets like the New York Times. If US law enforcement didn't know about organized white supremacist, misogynistic, homophobic, and transphobic and xenophobic violence, it is only because they did not want to. Quoth the poet Zach de la Rocha of Rage Against the Machine, "Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses." Are you angry? I feel like I've been angry for most of my life. To be honest, more often than not, I feel tired before I actually get around to feeling angry. I have been an activist for nearly the whole of my adult life. And I will admit that on many days, I am more tired than I am angry. Have you been angry? These things go in cycles. We stagger our breathing, we take turns at the front, because nobody can feel this way all the time. Because everybody needs a break sometimes. Because there is anger even in my exhaustion. Have you been angry? Are you angry? Can you let yourself be angry? I have hated my own anger. Even as I have long been a fan of artistic and political expressions of rage, I hold an internal double standard. My favorite rappers, my favorite punk bands, people resisting their governments in the streets, other people expressing displeasure over the ways they have been treated. Those are people I think get to feel angry. They get to let the world feel their rage. I find myself believing that my anger is bad, that I should be able to avoid it. This is profoundly unhelpful. There is a lot of popular wisdom that treats anger as a bad emotion, a feeling you should not have. We like to do this with our negative emotions, sadness and anger chief among them. We like to behave as though the goal is just to not feel bad, as if through some perfect combination of diet, exercise, meditation, and proprietary nonsense we bought from Gwyneth Paltrow, we could come to be beyond feeling this way. We spend a lot of time suppressing our emotions, not stating them, not engaging with them, simply trying to not feel them. This does not work. I suppose it does sound nice to never visit the pit of sadness or feel anger swelling in your chest, but though uncomfortable and culturally fraught, I don't think feelings are bad things. Feelings are information. They tell you something about what is going on in the world. And while not all of them are physically pleasant sensations, all of them can be used to gain greater insight into ourselves and our world. It is okay if you are angry. It is okay to be angry. But what comes next? There's a moment towards the end of the first Avengers movie when things are looking pretty bad. Aliens are pouring from the sky. New York City is being destroyed. And in this moment, our heroes really need the Hulk to come through and do some of his trademark smashing. Except, at this particular moment, the Hulk is Bruce Banner, a man with several PhDs and an extremely normal muscle mass. If you're not familiar, Bruce Banner is a scientist with a complicated emotional background who was exposed to gamma radiation and now turns into a giant green monster when he's angry. Captain America yells to Banner, "Now would be a good time to get angry." To which he replies, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." He transforms into the Hulk and holds back a giant metal alien. I think about this a lot. What if, instead of anger being something we live in fear of encountering, it was something we lived with and used to move stuff that is bigger than we can handle in our pedestrian forms? Anger happens. It sucks and it's exhausting. But maybe also anger has strength in it. Maybe there is courage and power you didn't know you had. Maybe there is something that, if well applied, can make great change. Sister Audre Lorde writes, "Every woman has a well-stocked arsenal of anger, potentially useful against those oppressions, personal and institutional, which brought that anger into being. Focused with precision, it can become a powerful source of energy, serving progress and change." She continues, "When I speak of change, I do not mean a simple switch of positions or a temporary lessening of tensions, nor do I mean the ability to smile or feel good. I am speaking of a basic and radical alteration in those assumptions underlining our lives." What if we could use anger that way? What if, instead of blowing up at each other over nothing all the time, we focused our anger where it belongs? What if we didn't fight so much with the person sitting next to us who expresses their politics in a way we don't like, and focused on the thing which holds all of us down, which upholds all of our hierarchies? For Lorde, the expression of anger and honest, considerate interaction with it is filled with liberatory potential, if it is aimed correctly. Anger can be clarifying, and anger can be a source of power. However, anger can also be severely misdirected. In her piece, Lorde discusses the ways in which the historical flow of emotional labor in our society, the desire lines of power, which can be simplified in her example to white women are held responsible for white men's anger, while black women are held responsible for white men, white women, and black men's anger. falling into these power lines when we're angry prevents meaningful engagement about racism between white women and black women, with white women sometimes taking out their repressed anger at powerful white men's racism on nearby black women who bring the question of race into the room. This isn't the only way that that ever happens, but it is a pattern. Our anger gets taken out on the most vulnerable person who is nearby. This is a bad use of anger. Don't do that. It is, of course, not always so clear as in this example, but the point remains. She writes, mainstream communication does not want women, particularly white women, responding to racism. It wants racism to be accepted as an immutable given in the fabric of your existence, like evening time or the common cold. In this way, the systems of racism and patriarchy work together to solidify the dominance of certain men at the expense of genuine connection between women, at the expense of healthy emotional development around anger. Ambiguity can make anger dangerous, no matter how good our intentions are. When we push it inward, anger can wrap around our own anxieties and these desire lines of our culture to become something purely destructive. We see plenty of that, huh? Anger can eat at our stores of resilience, and it can spur us to action that in fact runs counter to our goals. Anger that is attended to, witnessed, and considered, however, remains filled with potential. In a discussion of Black girls' expressions of anger, Dr. Brittany Cooper of the Crunk Feminist Collective describes what she understands as the eloquence of Black girl rage, stating that when Black girls walk into that space where they own their voice, it is very rare that I don't understand what they need, what the issue is, who the issue is with. I know who effed up, how they effed up, and the degrees of that conflict. I think if our anger is to be of use, if we are to do anything with our rage other than burn ourselves out in service of nothing in particular, we must develop an eloquent rage, one which is clear about who our issue is with, what has happened, and what needs to happen next. Anger is useful if we can take a moment to think before we act. Anger is motivating. So motivating, in fact, that we may find ourselves beginning to act before we have quite given thought to the full context of the situation. It is imperative that as we honor the anger within us and in one another, that we are aware of our own contexts and realities. Do you ever just feel kind of on edge? Yeah, I should see more nodding than that. You're all humans, I think. Probably there is some really good information if you're feeling on edge. Somewhere, something is definitely not right. But if you act before you spend time with your anger, before it's been properly contextualized or you've had time to see its roots, well, you are likely to try to solve an argument with your partner by driving too fast on the highway by yourself. It doesn't work if you don't know what you're responding to. Feelings are information, but sometimes we need to take a minute and be sure we know what kind of information they are. To make our rage eloquent, to make it into the sort of liberatory, clarifying force that Audre Lorde speaks of. We need to ask questions. What am I angry about? Who am I angry with? How has this moment or situation been constructed or constricted by history and society? what can be done? Think with me for a moment about wildfires. We are all likely familiar with how terrible a wildfire can be. If we haven't seen the destruction up close, we have certainly heard it from friends and family members or seen it in the news. Wildfires rage out of control. They destroy homes and businesses. They make the air nearby hard to breathe. They kill people. But that isn't everything that wildfires do. And if we made some slightly different choices, we could have a less dangerous relationship with wildfires. Wildfires clear dead things from the forest. They let the land breathe. They give space out from under years and years of growth and death. After a wildfire, new plants grow. Things that are unable to grow at any other time. Now, these beautiful little blue flowers. The only time and place they grow is when a forest has burned. Many forest ecosystems are actually stronger when we let wildfires burn in their natural course. But we haven't let them do that for a long time. We decided that burning was bad, that clearing out was bad. It's bad for loggers, bad for tourism, and besides, people wanted to live there. But the result of forests which are overdue for a fire is not no fires. It is increasingly large, increasingly dangerous, increasingly deadly fires. What if we accepted that things will hurt sometimes? What if we made friends with the fires that grow within us when we are told one too many times that a real problem in our lives is a distraction? What if we made friends with the fires that burn in our cores from a lifetime of hearing our friends' stories of sexual assault, rape, and domestic violence? What if we saw fire as fuel? What if, when we are enraged about gun violence, about anti-Semitism, about racism, about homophobia and transphobia, it was fire? What if our fire doesn't have to burn us up? What if it could give us new life in a space less cluttered with the detritus of oppressive hierarchies? In a December 2017 piece called "It's Time to Embrace Feminism's Anger," editor-in-chief of Bitch Magazine, A Feminist Response to Pop Culture, Andy Zeisler writes, "It is past time to stop treating female anger as something that happens to men, and time to stop viewing it as, at best, an inconvenience, and at worst, a threat to the status quo of political and social life. We already know that asking politely for social and political change doesn't work. Without constructively harnessing anger, we're just waiting around for permission from others. We need our anger right now to help us slam on the brakes before we are all the way off this cliff, and we are close. Even if you are tired, even though I am tired, we need to find the passion and motivation within ourselves to get up and make changes. I need you angry enough to vote, even if the candidates are uninspiring. And I need you angry enough to show up the next day and fight with the person you elected, because our problems are not able to be voted out of existence. There's a lot of talk about how great it was before the 2016 election. Yeah, spoiler alert, it wasn't that great. I was here, you were here. I think each of us is more than 3 years old. We all need each other for this. Now is not the time to discount anger. It is not the time to dismiss the anger of marginalized folks. It is not the time to engage in purity politics, and it is also not the time to let your anger burn you out. Tend to your own little flame. Keep it burning, but don't let it eat you up. Anger can get you out the door to a town hall meeting, to the ballot box, to a protest, or to a study group. Anger can motivate you to speak up, to take leadership, to take faithful risks that may have otherwise felt impossible to you. Anger, like fire, can be very dangerous, but it is valuable and can be generative if used appropriately. Who knows what we could do if we developed a healthy, respectful relationship with our anger? Beyond respecting it, what if we could support one another in our anger? What if, like we shared grief today, we shared the part of that which is rage? They live together. What if we found ways to help each other process and channel our rage into actions and projects which in the end could benefit us all? Fire helps us make beautiful glasswork, and fire sets pottery. What if we could turn our rage at injustice into beautiful things? My current favorite spiritual care question is, have you made art about it yet? And whether today you find yourself sad, angry, tired, or somewhere in between, this is my question for you. Whatever the issue most on your heart today is, whether it's big or small, personal or political, I want you to think about what it would be like to make art about it. My personal favorite ways to do this involve throwing paint at a canvas or putting too much eyeshadow on my face. But you have options. You could stage a play or write a poem, or you could just make a little sketch for yourself. Maybe seeing your anger represented outside of you will help you understand it better. Maybe sharing it with others will further your sense of connection. Maybe you'll find some clarity. Maybe when you're done, the world will be just a little more beautiful than it was before. I need you to know that beauty might not look how you think it will, though. It's on my way here today, thinking about love, beauty, and peace, and how anger is part of all those things, though we like to imagine that conflict doesn't happen. It does. I don't know if you've met humans. Right? No two people live in perfect harmony at any time. There will be disagreements, there will be anger. And maybe it's beautiful when you let it out. Have you ever been to a punk show? Have you ever seen a mosh pit? A mosh pit is beautiful. It's a ridiculous thing I just said. A mosh pit is beautiful. Because there is a togetherness, there is a movement, there is rage, but there is a movement together of bodies letting it out. There is catharsis. My favorite punk band is a LA native group called Bad Religion, which is hilarious because I'm a minister. They have been a band since before I was born. And a lot of my initial political strivings came from listening to their albums and wanting to know what they were talking about. I've been to see them 4 times, more than I have seen any other artist. And it's been a fun progression to go from an 18-year-old who was up front fighting for a space in the pit to a 28-year-old who was back by the bar because I'm good. It remains beautiful. There is beauty in the space making of punk rock. Beauty in Riot Girl, where Kathleen Hanna got on stage in a sports bra and pants with the word slut written across her stomach. It might not be what we think of as pretty, but it's beautiful. There's beauty in the rage of hip hop. Beauty in those kids in Compton and Watts who turned a rough situation into a world-changing sonic and aesthetic experience. What if we let it be beautiful? What if we cleared out that space? What if we stopped focusing on a negative piece where nobody ever brings up that something was wrong and focused on a positive piece? One where we have said our piece, one where we have shared our hurts, where we have been angry with each other, and then healed.